Rendered. There we go. Not rendered. In this case, I've just used the material because I don't have any lights, but I am using this for the light. So it is a sort of test render, you know. So I didn't do a proper setup. But hey, it works. I've brought up, obviously, I have the mesh, I have my low poly mesh. I brought in the textures very simply. Just have one dagger material, but you see it has some light. So this is the small little setup I did. To get some light on. So it is all done in Eevee because of one little node that doesn't come in cycles, which is shader to RGB. So let's look at it. I have this is a normal map. That's all right, yeah, that's what I kind of want. This is how I'm creating the masks for shadow and light. So what happens if I Control Shift left click on this with the node wrangler here guy, add-on enabled? I can just view what this node does, or all the nodes up to this. So you see it goes into this, straight into the output there, because it is a diffuse. If I watch this, it will create a viewer node. Okay, doesn't matter. Control Shift left click. What's happening here is I have the diffuse material, which is then being turned into RGB, which allows me to control it with color ramps. So if I select it, I am creating a mask, you see, for shadows in this case, because whatever is white is going to appear and whatever is black is going to be invisible in here. So this is my mask. This is just a color ramp connected, and then I'm adjusting. And I'm using diffuse with my normal map exported as well from the bake. So that was the more useful part as well of the high poly, and why I did the high poly and sculpt for this specific prop is because I wanted to use the normal map to add to the shader a bit more, to add details. So you see it's kind of coming in handy if I disconnect it with Control and drag, Control right click and drag. You see I get just the low poly mesh alone. I'll undo it. I get all these nice details. Make it a little bit bigger. One mask for shadow, another mask from the same shader, RGB, for light. You see this one, I have it a bit more soft, because you do have all this control. This is constant, and this is soft. I thought just as kind of a why not sort of thing. Then I have my base color, which is the textures we've looked at, brought in here. I'm creating a mix RGB node, and I'm connecting my mask, in this case my shadow mask, into factor, which is, well, a mask for this node. And then I am multiplying this color on top of my textures. And the result is that I get a bit of shadow. A shadow that is not in the texture, it's part of the scene, it's part of the lighting. If I move it around, you see it changes. Oh no, that did not save. There we go. I want it nice split in the middle here. Okay. And the next one is the same exact thing. I'm only using color dodge in here. Oops, didn't want to clump. Oh, but yeah, mix RGB, you have all these options. So in this case, multiply for shadows and color dodge I used for the lights. One other one is color burn. That might be quite nice to use in certain cases. At least I do like it in Photoshop, but might be a bit of an overkill. Certainly seems to be. I'll keep it at that. Color dodge. Let's see how that looks. See, it has a bit of yellow. Let's try changing it around just to see what it does. Yeah, this whole side where our mask is what's getting changed. And of course, I can change the color depending. So this is a super simple shader, because then I'm just connecting it into emission. What that does is basically there is no shading in here. Everything's just gonna appear as is, always this bright, but still I'm controlling the shadows and lights through the shader. So it's a very simple shader, kind of as simple as it gets when it comes to these kind of things, but creates a fairly nice presentation. If you want to know more about these kind of things, because I'm definitely no expert, you can check out a YouTube channel called Lighting Boy Studios. They've done a whole series of creating stylized shaders with much more complexity than whatever I've mustered up here. But my point also is that it doesn't have to be complicated. I have my textures that I'm happy with, and I'm getting some shadows and lights on the mesh using my normal map, and it's all reacting to light. So I'm happy with that. The background is also within Blender. It's a gradient texture, which you can just search gradient texture. It is UV'd because, well, it's a square, and then I put a color ramp with some adjustments. So with the gradient textures, I can get the spherical, just to create a little background for the blades. Not sure, do I have them casting shadows? Yeah, I think I do. The line art, another little extra thing, which is just something that comes in Blender with grease pencil. So I have the border and I have the inside, just for the control. So to create it, I've put everything I want the line art to be in collection. That's, select these guys, click M, new collection, put it in there. So then when I do Shift A, I will do where we are, grease pencil, I can click collection line art. All this does is creates grease pencil, but it also creates a modifier on it, a line art modifier. And then I just point out to the render collection, turn everything off here, leave only contour. So this is only the contours of my mesh. And that's that. And then the other one is exactly the same, but the contour turned off and everything else on. So this way I can, is it going to be under modifiers or the grease pencil itself? You have options to make it, thinner or thicker. So I'm keeping just different, you see, thicknesses on these, because this is a bit thinner, this is a bit thicker. And you see there's a wiggly going on here because I've added another few modifiers on the line art. One is subdivide, because if I go into, can I go into sculpt mode? No, it seems to be disappearing. I've been having issues with grease pencil in this specific scene for some reason, but basically you can move it around, you can edit it, add new ones if you want, and it has its own subdivisions just like a mesh. So by adding those, I can add a noise modifier on top, and that's what's adding the squiggliness in there. See, without it, it would look like this, and with it, I'm getting a bit of variation. And that's about it. My final render is just this. Viewport render. Boom. Here it is. I hope I wasn't going over everything too fast and you've picked up a trick or two. This 3D part, my aim was to show, even though in a very simple way, that hand-painted textures just don't end up where hand-painted textures is not the end of how a mesh looks. There's a bit more to it. So even though it was very simple, the shader is doing so much work in how the final presentation looks. Little extra things like line art, things like the glow, all of those little things add up to create a final artwork. If you have any questions, if you're lost still after this, I'm happy to help out. Get in touch with me and I'll answer any questions you may have. It's not new to me to make extra chapters if people got lost, so give me your suggestions. If anything you want to see, if anything needs to be explained a bit more clearly, I'm here. Thank you for watching and goodbye.